Admiral Vexcor stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by officers who no longer looked willing to follow his orders. Ships from 12 different Alliance species now positioned themselves alongside the Earth fleet, protecting Vexor. His 5 warships were outnumbered 3-1. "Admiral," his second-in-command said quietly, "we must stand down. The Alliance Council is calling for an immediate ceasefire." Vexcor's gray face darkened with anger, but he was a practical man. He knew when a battle was lost. "Power down weapons," he ordered. But this isn't over. On the U.S. horizon, John watched as the Arcturian ships withdrew to a safe distance. A cheer went up from his crew. "We did it," Kate said, her voice filled with emotion. "The Vexarians did it," John corrected her. Their empathic resonance showed the truth in a way no evidence alone could have done. Admiral Dawson contacted the horizon. "Captain Carter, I owe you an apology. You saw what was right when I was bound by orders and politics." "No apology needed, sir," John replied. "We all serve in our own way." "Perhaps," Dawson smiled. "But I think you've earned a promotion. How does Admiral Carter sound?" John laughed. "One step at a time, sir. We still have work to do." In the weeks that followed, the galaxy underwent tremendous change. The Alliance leadership was dissolved. 7 high-ranking officials, including 2 Arcturians, were arrested for corruption and exploitation. The evidence gathered by Kate and the Vexarians proved their crimes beyond doubt. Representatives from Earth, Vexor, and the ships that had come to their aid met on Centauride Prime. President Wright proposed a new treaty organization, one based on principles of empathy and mutual respect. "The old alliance failed because it was built on power and control," she said to the gathered delegates. "This new union will be different. All voices will be heard. All needs will be considered." Zixlith, his exoskeleton now pulsing with golden hope, addressed the assembly. "For generations, my people have been rejected and feared for our ability to sense and share emotions. Today, that same ability has shown us a new path forward together." The Vexarian enzyme became freely available to all worlds that needed it. Dr. Wright and Lyraxa led a team of scientists from multiple species to develop new treatments. Millions of lives were saved. Earth ships escorted Vexarian vessels as they traveled to worlds that had once shunned them. Slowly, trust began to grow. 6 months after the confrontation at Vexor, John stood on the observation deck of the newly commissioned U.S. Unity. The ship was larger than the horizon, designed for both exploration and diplomacy. His crew had joined him on this new assignment, along with representatives from 6 other species, including 2 Vexarians. "Admiral Carter," Kate called as she entered the deck. "It's time for the launch ceremony." John smiled at his new rank. He still wasn't used to it. "I'll be right there." He took a last look at Earth through the large windows. His home planet seemed small from this distance, a blue marble hanging in the blackness of space. Yet this small world had changed the course of galactic history by simply refusing to abandon those in need. On Vexor, a monument was built in the central square of the capital city. It showed a human hand and a Vexarian hand clasped together. The inscription beneath it read in both languages, "When all others turned away, you remained." This is the true measure of civilization. As the U.S. Unity prepared to leave on its first mission, John thought about how far they had come. The journey had begun with a simple choice: to help those who needed it, regardless of the cost. It was, he believed, the most human choice of all. The stars beckoned, and new worlds waited to be discovered. But this time, they would go forward together, humans and Vexarians, side by side. Lights flashed on the bridge of the U.S. horizon as alert signals sounded. The Arcturian warships had activated their weapon systems. The Earth fleet responded by raising shields and moving into defensive positions. "They're targeting the capital city," Daniel reported, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. Admiral Dawson's face appeared on the main screen. The older man's expression was stern but calm. "Captain Carter, we've analyzed the evidence you gathered. It's more than enough to expose the Alliance leadership. We're ready to broadcast. The Arcturians will try to stop the transmission, John warned. Let them try, Dawson replied with a slight smile. We've prepared for that. The Admiral turned to someone off-screen and nodded. Seconds later, Kate reported, the broadcast has begun. It's going out on all frequencies to every planet and station in Alliance space. On planets throughout the galaxy, beings of all species watched as the evidence unfolded on their screens. They saw records of illegal mining operations on Vexor. They saw secret experiments on Vexarian tissue samples. They saw the logs of Alliance leaders discussing how to silence the Vexarians. And they saw something else. The success of the Vexarian enzyme in curing the Nellaran plague. Patients who had been near death now walked and spoke normally. On the Arcturian command ship, Admiral Vexcor received urgent messages from his superiors. The broadcast was causing uproar throughout Alliance space. Citizens were demanding answers. Silence that transmission, he ordered, and prepare to fire on the human ships. The Arcturian cruisers locked weapons on the Earth fleet. The moment of truth had arrived. John stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display. His crew waited for his orders. The ships were evenly matched. If fighting began, many would die on both sides. Captain, Kate called suddenly. The Vexarians are doing something. On the planet below, Zixlith stood with thousands of his people in the central square of the capital city. Their bodies were glowing with an intensity never seen before. Gold, green, blue, and purple lights swirled and merged as they joined in a mass empathic resonance. What's happening? John asked over the communication link. Lyrix's voice answered. We are sharing our truth, our complete truth. Something unexpected happened. The Vexarians' empathic resonance spread beyond their physical bodies. It moved through the communication systems, carried by the same signals as the evidence broadcast. Throughout the galaxy, people felt a wave of emotion. The fear and betrayal the Vexarians had felt when abandoned. The gratitude they felt toward humans who stood by them. Their peaceful intentions, their hope for understanding. We're receiving messages from all over the Alliance, Kate reported in amazement. People are supporting the Vexarians. They're demanding the Alliance leadership step down. Several Alliance ships are breaking formation, Daniel added. They're standing down their weapons. But Admiral Vexcor was not moved. His flagship's weapons remained locked on Vexor. I will not be stopped by emotion, he snarled. Fire on the main city. Sir, his weapons officer hesitated. I can't do that. Then I'll do it myself. Vexcor moved toward the weapons controls. John watched in alarm as the Arcturian flagship's energy readings spiked. All ships, target the Arcturian flagship's weapons, he ordered. Before any ship could fire, something new appeared on the sensors. Ships were dropping out of faster-than-light travel all around them. Not Earth ships, but vessels from other Alliance species. We're being hailed, Kate said in surprise. It's the Tellarites, and the Kaldorians, and the Medusan fleet. The face of a Tellarite captain appeared on screen. Human vessels, we have received the broadcast. We have felt the truth. We stand with you and the Vexarians against this injustice. John couldn't hide his smile as more ships arrived. Species that had voted to expel the Vexarians now came to their defense. The Arcturian warships were suddenly outnumbered. Admiral Vexcor stared at his tactical display in disbelief. This is impossible, he whispered. The U.S. horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Vexor. The sight that greeted them was both frightening and inspiring. 5 massive Arcturian warships hung in space above the planet. Their weapons were aimed at the major Vexarian cities below. But they were not alone. 3 Earth ships had already arrived. The U.S. Defender, commanded by Captain Steve Ross, was positioned between the Arcturians and the planet. Captain Ross is hailing us, Kate announced. Steve's face appeared on the screen. His expression was serious, but there was a hint of a smile in his eyes. John, you've stirred up quite a mess this time. Good to see you too, Steve, John replied. What's the situation? Tense, Steve said. The Arcturians are demanding we leave. They claim this is an alliance matter. And you told them? Steve's smile grew. I told them Earth doesn't abandon friends. John nodded gratefully. What support do we have? 2 more ships arriving within the hour, Steve replied. And Admiral Dawson sent a message. He's on his way personally. John's eyebrows rose in surprise. Dawson, I thought he opposed our mission. Things have changed, Steve explained. The cure you delivered to the Nelloran colony is working. Over 1,000 lives saved already. The news is spreading across the galaxy. Hope flickered in John's chest, but he knew they weren't safe yet. The Arcturians won't back down easily. Not with so much at stake. Agreed, Steve said. That's why we need to expose everything. Kate sent us the evidence you gathered. It's time the whole galaxy sees the truth. John turned to his crew. Kate, continue working with the Vexarians. Find anything else that might help our case. Daniel, coordinate security with the other Earth ships. And Dr. Wright. I know, the doctor said. Keep working on the medical applications. Show the galaxy what they'd lose if the Vexarians were destroyed. John nodded. Let's move. On the planet's surface, John met with Zixlith and the Vexarian Council. The room was tense, the Vexarians' bodies showing swirls of worried purple and anxious green. The Arcturians have given us 6 hours to surrender all research and samples of the enzyme, Zixlith explained. We won't let that happen, John promised. Lyrixa, the young scientist who had worked with Dr. Wright, stepped forward. Her colors were a determined gold despite the danger. We have completed the full analysis of the enzyme, she said. It does more than cure the Nelloran plague. It can treat at least 12 major diseases that affect alliance species, including the bone-wasting disease that affects Arcturians, added another Vexarian. John absorbed this information. No wonder they want to control it. With this, they could hold the health of multiple species hostage. Exactly, Zixlith confirmed. This was never about cultural differences. It was about power. Kate contacted John through his communication device. Captain, we found something big. The Alliance leadership didn't just know about the enzyme. They've been experimenting with it for years, using samples taken from Vexarians without consent. John's anger flared. Can you prove it? Yes, Kate confirmed. We found records, experiment logs, even video. They've been trying to synthesize it themselves, but failed. Send everything to the other Earth ships, John ordered, and prepare to broadcast it to every Alliance world. The Arcturians won't let that happen easily, Zixlith warned. John stood tall. Then we'll need to be ready for their response. Back in orbit, the standoff continued. Admiral Dawson's ship, the U.S. Constitution, arrived with 2 more Earth vessels. The small Earth fleet now faced the Arcturian warships across the emptiness of space. On the Arcturian command ship, Admiral Vexcor watched with cold eyes. The humans are becoming a problem, he said to his officers. Perhaps it's time to remind them of their place in the galaxy. He gave the order, and the Arcturian ships began to power up their main weapons. The response from the Galactic Alliance came swiftly. Within days of President Wright's announcement, Earth ships were denied docking rights at most spaceports. Trade ships carrying goods to Earth were stopped and turned back. Earth was being isolated. John sat in his captain's chair on the horizon, reading the latest reports. Earth stocks were falling. Food prices were rising. The Alliance was punishing humanity for standing with the Vexarians. Captain, Kate called from her station. We're receiving a priority message from Ambassador Miller. Susan's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but determined. Captain Carter, the situation is getting worse. The Alliance has officially declared the Horizon a rogue vessel. They've authorized any Alliance ship to stop you by force. John nodded grimly. We expected that. What about Earth? President Wright is standing firm, Susan replied. But the pressure is intense. Some countries are calling for her to back down. We can't back down now, John said. Not after what we've discovered. I agree, Susan said. That's why I'm sending you coordinates. A small Earth fleet is gathering there, outside Alliance space. They're officially on training exercises, but their real mission is to support you. Hope sparked in John's chest. Thank you, Ambassador. After the call ended, Dr. Wright rushed onto the bridge. His eyes were bright with excitement. Captain, we did it. The Vexarian enzyme works. We've created a treatment for the Nelloran plague. The Nelloran plague had been spreading through 3 systems, killing thousands. Alliance medical teams had been unable to find a cure. Are you sure it works? John asked. Positive, Dr. Wright confirmed. We tested it on infected tissue samples. It kills the virus completely. John made a quick decision. Kate, get me the coordinates of the nearest plague outbreak. Daniel, prepare a shuttle with the treatment. We're making a delivery. Hours later, the small shuttle approached the Nelloran colony world. A blockade of Alliance ships guarded the planet. They're hailing us, Kate said from the pilot's seat. The face of an Arcturian commander appeared on their screen. Earth vessel, turn back immediately. You are not authorized to enter this space. John leaned forward. We have a cure for the plague. Let us pass. The Arcturian's expression didn't change. Turn back, or we will fire. John looked at Dr. Wright, who nodded confidently. This cure will save thousands. It was developed with help from the Vexarians. The Arcturian was silent for a moment. Hold position. Minutes passed tensely. Then the commander returned to the screen. You may proceed to the surface. 1 shuttle only. Any deviation, and we will respond with force. The shuttle landed near the main hospital. Medical workers rushed out to meet them, desperate for help. Dr. Wright explained the treatment while John watched the sky nervously. Will it work? Asked a local doctor, her face gaunt from weeks of fighting the disease. Yes, Dr. Wright said firmly. The enzyme breaks down the virus completely. The first patients received the treatment within hours. By the next day, they were showing improvement. Word spread quickly. Back on the horizon, John received news that troubled him deeply. Arcturian warships have entered Vexarian space, Kate reported. 5 heavy cruisers. Their weapons are powered and ready, Daniel added. John's jaw tightened. Set course for Vexar. Maximum speed. Captain, Kate said hesitantly, we're no match for 5 Arcturian cruisers. We won't be alone, John replied. Contact the Earth fleet. Tell them to meet us there. As the horizon jumped to faster than light speed, a message reached them from Vexar. Zixlith's voice was calm despite the danger. Captain Carter, the Arcturians demand we surrender all research on the enzyme. They claim it belongs to the Alliance. We have refused. They threaten to destroy our cities if we do not comply. John's eyes narrowed. Hold on, old friend. We're coming. The real battle for Vexar was about to begin. 2 weeks passed. The U.S. horizon remained in orbit around Vexar. On the outside, the ship appeared to be undergoing repairs. In reality, it had become the center of a secret operation. John watched as Daniel directed the loading of another modified cargo container. What looked like engine parts from a distance were actually food supplies and medicine packed in special compartments. That's the 5th container this week, Kate said, joining him at the observation window. The Vexarians in the northern regions will have enough food for a month now. Good, John nodded. Any word from Earth? Kate's expression turned serious. Admiral Dawson is getting suspicious. He's sending an inspection team in 3 days. John frowned. Then we need to speed things up. They walked to the medical bay where Dr. Wright was working with 2 Vexarian scientists. The aliens' exoskeletons pulsed with excited yellow and green colors as they examined data on a screen. Captain, Dr. Wright looked up with a smile. You need to see this. He pointed to a microscope. The Vexarians produce an enzyme in their bodies that could revolutionize human medicine. It could treat diseases we thought were incurable. One of the Vexarians, a younger female named Larexa, spoke through the translator. "This is why we wanted to share with all species. Our bodies make this naturally." "And the Alliance knew about this?" John asked. "Some did," Lyrixa confirmed, her colors darkening. "The Arcturians especially. They wanted to control it." John felt pieces falling into place. "So that's another reason they wanted you isolated." Kate's communication device beeped. Her eyes widened as she read the message. "Captain, I need to show you something." They hurried to the communication center, where Kate brought up a file on the main screen. "I've been working with the Vexarian information specialists," she explained. "We've been digging through the Alliance data that Lyrixa helped us access." The screen showed official Alliance documents. Trade agreements, mining permits, and communication logs filled the display. "The Vexarians weren't expelled just because they made others uncomfortable," Kate said. "They discovered corruption at the highest levels of the Alliance. The Arcturians and 3 other founding species have been stealing resources from newer members for decades. And the Vexarians found out because they could sense the deception," John realized. "Exactly," Kate nodded. When confronted, the Alliance leaders decided to remove the problem. John's face hardened. "We need to get this information to Earth." "That's not all," Kate continued. "We intercepted a communication between Alliance ships. They know we're still helping the Vexarians. They're threatening sanctions against Earth." John was silent for a moment. "Have you sent this to Ambassador Miller?" "Yes, and directly to President Wright." "Good," John said. "Keep working with the Vexarians. Find every piece of evidence you can." Later that day, John met with Daniel in the cargo bay. The security chief had been training a small group of Vexarians. "They're not natural fighters," Daniel explained as they watched the aliens practice defensive moves, "but they're learning to protect themselves without hurting others." "Their pacifism is admirable," John said, "but they need to be able to defend themselves if things get worse." One of the Vexarians approached them, his exoskeleton a calm blue. "Captain Carter, a message came for you from your planet. Everyone can see it on the information networks." John hurried to the nearest screen, where President Wright's face was addressing the galaxy. Her expression was determined as she spoke. "Earth does not abandon friends in need. We stand with the Vexarians despite the Alliance's decision. We have discovered evidence of exploitation and corruption that we cannot ignore. As of today, Earth is establishing a direct humanitarian mission to Vexar." John couldn't hide his smile. Back on Vexar's surface, thousands of Vexarians watched the same broadcast, their bodies glowing with bright gold hope for the first time in weeks. The tide was turning, but John knew the real fight was just beginning. Susan Miller stood alone in the vast chamber of the Galactic Alliance headquarters on Centauri Prime. The circular room was designed to impress, with its high ceiling and walls made of rare metals from 100 worlds. The voting panels of 200 species glowed in front of empty seats. The final vote on the Vexarian expulsion had just concluded. Susan's panel was the only one lit in blue. Every other active panel glowed red. Ambassador Miller, the Arcturian representative, said, his gray, leathery face showing no emotion, "Your vote has been noted. Earth stands alone in this matter." Susan straightened her diplomatic uniform. "Earth's position is clear. The Vexarians have committed no crime worthy of expulsion." The Arcturian made a dismissive gesture. "The vote is final. The Vexarians are no longer part of our alliance. This meeting is adjourned." Susan watched as the other representatives filed out. Her communication device buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from Captain Carter of the U.S. Horizon. She waited until she was alone before reading it. "This changes everything," she whispered. Admiral Frank Dawson's face filled the screen in John's private quarters aboard the Horizon. His expression was hard, his gray beard neatly trimmed. "Captain Carter, your orders were clear. Evacuate all personnel from Vexar immediately." "Sir, with respect, there's more happening here than we knew," John replied. "The Vexarians were being exploited for their resources." "That's not our concern," the Admiral snapped. "The Alliance has made its decision. A decision based on lies, John countered. Ambassador Miller was the only one who voted against the expulsion. The Admiral's expression softened slightly. Susan always was too idealistic for her own good, but it doesn't change anything. You have 12 hours to leave Vexarian space, or I'll send someone to relieve you of command. The screen went black. John sat in silence for a moment, then pressed the intercom button. Senior staff to the conference room. Now, Kate, Daniel, and Dr. Wright sat around the small table in the conference room. John had just explained the situation. So we're being ordered to abandon them, Kate said, her voice tight with anger. Yes, John confirmed. And if we disobey direct orders, we risk court-martial. Daniel leaned forward. I didn't join Earth Fleet to turn my back on people who need help. Neither did I, Dr. Wright added, especially when they've been wronged like this. John looked at each of them. I won't order any of you to risk your careers. If you want to return to Earth, I'll arrange transport. Kate laughed softly and missed the chance to make history. No way, Captain. We're with you, Daniel agreed. All of us. John nodded, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. Then we need a plan. We can't openly defy orders, but we can find a way to help. What about Operation Sanctuary? Dr. Wright suggested. We modify cargo containers, make them habitable. We could smuggle supplies. That could work, John said, thinking quickly. We'll need a cover story. Engine trouble, Kate suggested with a smile. Very serious. Could take weeks to repair. John smiled back. Perfect. Daniel, I need you to quietly contact trusted crew members. Dr. Wright, make a list of essential supplies the Vexarians need most. What about Earth? Kate asked. They'll figure out what we're doing eventually. Let me worry about Earth, John replied. For now, we focus on keeping the Vexarians alive. Back on Earth, the Vexarian issue was becoming heated. Politicians argued in the Global Council chambers. We cannot risk our standing in the Alliance for one alien species, Councillor Richard Bell insisted. But we cannot abandon our principles either, countered Councillor Maria Lopes. The Vexarians deserve better. In her office, President Patricia Wright watched the debate on her screen. A message from Ambassador Miller sat open on her desk, along with Captain Carter's report. A hard choice, she murmured to herself. The right path rarely is the easy one. She pressed a button on her desk. Get me Admiral Dawson. And find out everything we know about the Vexarians. Everything. The shuttle landed softly on the curved landing pad outside the Vexarian Council Hall. John stepped out with Dr. Wright close behind. The air on Vexar was thinner than Earth's but smelled sweet like cinnamon and rain. Zixlith was waiting for them, his tall, thin form bending slightly in greeting. His exoskeleton shimmered with muted blues of sadness and faint green specks of hope. Captain Carter, the Vexarian elder said, his voice translated through the small device at John's ear. You risk much by staying. We wanted to make sure you were okay, John replied simply. Come, Zixlith gestured with one of his forearms. We should not talk here. They followed him into a round room with walls that curved like the inside of a seashell. Light filtered through the semi-transparent ceiling, casting rainbow patterns on the floor. Your translator, Zixlith said, pointing to John's ear device. It is good, but it cannot fully explain what I must tell you. The elder touched a panel on the wall. A holographic display appeared, showing images of Earth from 20 years ago. This is when we first met your kind, Zixlith explained. Do you know that story, Captain? John shook his head. I was just a kid then. Dr. Lisa Reeves was the first human to truly understand us, Zixlith said, his body glowing with warm orange at the memory. The display showed a woman with curly red hair examining a Vexarian child. Dr. Wright leaned forward. I study her work at the Academy. She discovered that your emotional displays weren't just for communication. Yes, Zixlith confirmed. We do not simply show our feelings. We feel what others feel. The The child in this image had fallen and hurt himself. Dr. Reeves felt sad for him. And so, she felt sad, so you felt sad too, John finished. More than that, Zixlith corrected. I felt her sadness as my own. And she saw this happen. His exoskeleton rippled with the memory. Other species found this disturbing, uncomfortable. But humans found it fascinating. The display changed to show meetings between humans and Vexarians, working together on research projects, sharing meals, laughing. Your people never feared our connection, Zixlith said. You welcomed it. That still doesn't explain why the Alliance kicked you out, John said. Zixlith's color darkened. Before we met any of you, humans or the Alliance, we encountered many species. None stayed. All found reasons to leave. Dr. Wright frowned. Because they couldn't lie to you. Because we reflect the truth of their feelings back to them, Zixlith said. Most beings do not wish to see their own emotions so clearly displayed. And the Alliance? John asked. They tolerated us because humans insisted, Zixlith said simply. When the vote came to remove us, your leaders were pressured to abstain. John's jaw tightened, and now you're facing starvation. We have survived rejection before, Zixlith said, though his body betrayed his fear with pulses of dark purple. But our world can no longer sustain us without help. The mining operations from the Alliance took much from our land. Mining? Dr. Wright asked. What mining? Zixlith touched the panel again. New images appeared showing large excavation sites on Vexar's surface. They came for the crystals that grow in our mountains, Zixlith explained. Useful for their ships and weapons. They paid little and took much. John felt anger building inside him. He noticed Zixlith's exoskeleton flickering with red sparks, reflecting John's own emotions. I need to contact Earth, John said. Now I understand why my gut told me to stay. Your leaders may not listen, Zixlith warned. The Alliance is powerful. Maybe, John admitted, but not all humans follow orders blindly. As they walked back to the shuttle, Dr. Wright spoke quietly. Captain, this is bigger than us. The Alliance won't just let us help them. I know, John replied, but how can we call ourselves explorers if we turn our backs on a people in need, especially when we're the only friends they have left? Back on the shuttle, John opened a secure channel to Earth. His mind was racing with plans, but one thing was clear. He wasn't leaving Vexar. Not yet. Maybe not at all. The last diplomatic ship lifted off from the surface of Vexar, its engines glowing bright against the purple sky. Zixlith watched from the observation deck, his translucent exoskeleton shifting from its normal peaceful green to a deep blue of sadness. The Galactic Alliance of sentient species had made their decision. The Vexarians were no longer welcome. It is done, Zixlith said to the others gathered around him. The Tellarites were the last to leave. The room filled with blue and gray hues as the gathered Vexarians processed the news. Their thin bodies trembled slightly, a sign of collective distress. They had known this day was coming, but that didn't make it easier. What reason did they give this time? Asked Kreela, her exoskeleton flashing brief sparks of angry red before returning to sorrowful blue. The same as the others. Cultural incompatibility. Resource inefficiency. Zixlith's antennae drooped. Empty words to hide their discomfort with our nature. The Vexarians had always known they were different. Their ability to sense and mirror the emotions of others made many species uncomfortable. When a Vexarian felt joy, their body glowed yellow. When they felt pain, their own or someone else's, they turned deep purple. They couldn't hide their feelings the way other species could. The human ship is still here, said Narvix, pointing to a sleek vessel docked at the far end of the spaceport. The U.S. horizon has not left. A small flicker of hope rippled through the gathered Vexarians, their exoskeletons momentarily lightening. Captain John Carter stood on the bridge of the U.S. horizon, staring at the message on his screen. The orders were clear. Evacuate all human personnel from Vexar immediately following the Galactic Alliance vote. The Vexarians were officially outcasts. We received the evacuation order 3 hours ago, Captain, said Kate Robinson, his communications officer. Earth Central Command is asking for confirmation of departure. John ran a hand through his short brown hair, his blue eyes fixed on the view of the Vexarian city below. Unlike the gleaming metal towers of other worlds, Vexarian architecture curved and flowed like frozen water, buildings that seemed almost alive. Tell them we're dealing with some engine trouble, John said. We need a few more hours. Kate raised an eyebrow, but nodded. Yes, sir. Dr. Alan Wright entered the bridge, his medical uniform slightly rumpled from a long shift. Captain, I just received word from the Vexarian Health Ministry. Without regular shipments from off-world, their medical supplies will be depleted in less than 30 days. John nodded grimly. What about food? Maybe 60 days, if they ration carefully. Alan replied. Their planet suffered major ecological damage before they developed space travel. They've been dependent on imports for generations. Daniel Harris, the ship's security chief, spoke up from his station. Sir, this isn't right. The official report claims they were expelled for cultural reasons, but we all know the truth. John turned to his crew. They had spent more time with the Vexarians than any other human team. They knew them as people, not just aliens. The truth is they make people uncomfortable, John said. Their empathic abilities mean they can't be lied to easily, and that makes them dangerous to politicians. He made his decision. I'm going down to the surface. I need to speak with Elder Zixlith. Captain, Kate said carefully, that would be directly violating orders. John smiled slightly. Log it as a final diplomatic courtesy. We humans are known for our tedious goodbye rituals, aren't we? The crew exchanged glances. They knew their captain well enough to recognize when he was planning something. Prepare a shuttle, John ordered. Dr. Wright, you're with me. And send a message to Susan Miller at the Earth Embassy on Centauri Prime. Tell her I need to speak urgently about the Vexarian situation. As John walked toward the elevator, he paused and looked back at his crew. The Alliance may have turned their backs on the Vexarians, but that doesn't mean Earth has to follow suit. For the first time that day, hope flickered on the bridge of the U.S. horizon.